Okay, Steve, so my turn to ask you a question. So, what about this concept of throwing people into a room and running a training session and hoping that that's going to change things? What do you think about that?
Uh, it ain't. It won't work. It won't work. I'm afraid to say it because I've made my living out of this for 20 odd years. The typical approach in the automotive industry when training needs to happen is that it quite often is, let's throw a load of people in a room and train them on something, quite often which is about box ticking, reaching a standard, hitting a requirement, doing what you have to do. The compliance thing is the perfect example of that. We wouldn't be doing compliance training anywhere in the industry if we didn't have to do it. So the industry has got a history of doing what it needs to do to get away with stuff and to tick boxes if it has to, because I believe personally that we don't and we haven't had a learning culture in our industry. So I think it will have some effect if you put managers into a room and train them, but the effect will be short-lived. And if it transfers into the business, it probably won't be sustainable, because most of those managers will be there, wondering why they're there, how long the session's going to be, when do I get the certificate, and off they go. Because they're not going to go back into an environment that welcomes the changes that need to be made for this to become a cultural change event.
Absolutely. And, I think you and I are both very familiar with the concept of being employed by a client or working within a business where you get told to go and run a workshop with a section of the that organization's population, and you get that pushback all the time. Well, this is all well and good, but my leaders are fighting against what you're telling me to do all the time. And is this training happening from top down? Are our bosses getting this training?
Yeah.
It's very hard to be put in that position when you know that they absolutely should be involved in that whole learning culture.
Yeah.
And let's also not put too fine a point on the fact that Menable isn't about just putting workshops out. It's a whole change, and for change to really happen, that has to be demonstrated and role modeled at every level, especially from the top down. And people can become very resentful when they're thrown into motivational style learning events, and they absolutely know that it's just lip service and a waste of time, because as soon as they go out back into their roles, like you said, all of the forces are fighting against that. And it doesn't matter how much they want to change and how much they believe in what you're telling them, if that is not backed up at all levels, then it's just going to be a waste of money and time.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. But someone in the organization somewhere will be able to tick a box and say, well, we've delivered that, so we're covered. And the reality for me is, I wish I had a pound as an automotive trainer for every time ran a course and somebody started an attendee started at that course and said, what time's this over, mate? I've got a meeting at 4 o'clock.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they don't want to be there. They found out the night before or not long before. They've had a 2 or 3 hour drive, and I know that's changed now because lots more is done virtually. But that's the mindset. They don't want to be there. They've got too much else to do, and training is an unfortunate distraction from the daily work, to be honest. And I also wish I had a pound for every time somebody sat on a course and said, when are our managers doing this? Because
Yeah.
this isn't about us. We get it and we understand, but when are our leaders actually coming on this program as well?
Absolutely right. And the way I see it is, it's a bit like people are like elastic bands. They have to be stretched to be useful. But the problem is that if you throw people into a training and the environment doesn't support that change, you're going to keep stretching it, and it'll either snap, or the ends will be let go of, and the elastic band becomes useless. So
Yeah.
it's just a real shame when that happens, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. The whole thing just concerns me, that and I won't let us get involved in it. This propensity that we have in the industry that, oh yeah, we need to train all our managers. So we either hire a room in a hotel or we get a room in a dealership, which is typically a meeting room that's, you know, upstairs tucked away. And 10 managers turn up, and most of them, as I said, don't want to be there. It's an unnecessary distraction. They're looking at their watches, looking at their phones. And I can just envisage that if you're trying to impart important information like this, you are going to get people in there who are going to kick back and say things like, oh, so what, you want us to become bloody counselors now, and you want us to properly, you know, put our arms around our teams and all of that. And our answer to that is going to be yes. It's
Yes.
exactly what we want. But I am not going to stand at the front of a room with 20 people in it and tell them that. That's their leader's job to tell them that.
Absolutely right. And I think that this is a whole other question that we need to answer, isn't it? Around, well, you know, how do we do that in the right way? How do we make sure that we put our arm around people in the right way and not be fearful of what the results of that will be?
Yeah. I feel another Menable moment coming on him.
Me too, Steve.